time management is something that I think universally I will say human, because even teenagers struggle with this, who is pursuing more than just your average day to day, feels like they have time crunch issues some of the time. And so this is going to be a really quick brief training on a tool that I have found to be invaluable in keeping me on track and helping me get so much more done than your average human. So what is time management? Well, we all have the same 24 hours in a day. So why is it that some people seem to get all the things done like that they have to do, and they still have time for all the things that they want to do, and some people just never quite seem to have enough time? Well, time management is a big concept. It's a lot to cover, but it's comprised of many different parts, and when you get them all working well and working together, you can end up with more time than you thought was possible. So a few things that need to be understood and put in place for great time management are things like prioritization, focus, planning, delegation, mindset, self-care. Those are like some critical components to time management. And I'm hoping to touch on all of those eventually in these lovely videos that I post for you guys. But today we're going to talk about a tool that I use and how I think it can help you too. So we're going to talk about something called time blocking. Some people call it time chunking. Doesn't really matter what word you use for it, but it's a technique that involves assigning specific blocks of time to different tasks and activities. And when you do this, you can actually avoid wasting time on things that are unimportant and focus on the things that you have decided are most important to you and that you must get done, or simply that you really want to do. In order to use this tool effectively, though, you need to identify your top priorities. I love this tool for that because it makes you think about what you actually want to accomplish in a day. So you should probably have some goals or have thought about what you want to accomplish. Then you break your day down into blocks, and I use an app for this. We'll talk about that in just a second. I break my day down into 30-minute segments. You can actually break it down into any chunk of time that works for you. And then you set a specific task for each little block that you have in the day. Then you stick to that schedule and you adjust it as needed. So there are several components to this to make it successful. But I found that before I used any form of time blocking at all, I always did the things that I really wanted to do or the things that I had the least resistance around. They weren't always the most important or even the must-dos. It was the things that, I don't know, seemed easy and I had no internal feelings about them. And I would often let some of the most important things slide, wait till the very last minute, and then feel pressured to complete them, because if I had any resistance around them, they kind of got shoved down on the list. I also often felt very overwhelmed by the sheer volume of things that I wanted to accomplish, like in a day, in a week, in a month. And without a tool, I was often frozen in indecision because I was thinking about all of the things all of the time, and then I couldn't figure out where to start. Like, what do I do first? And that's how I think I ended up always just doing the thing that felt the easiest or the quickest to get to. Has anyone else ever been there? Because I think a lot of us have a lot of these things circling in our heads all the time. Women, we do that. We are hyper aware of all things at all times, unlike men who can be very singularly focused. And this can make it feel like there's always just too much to do. So I learned about time blocking or time chunking many years ago, probably 3 or 4 years ago for the first time. And it has actually completely changed how much I can accomplish in a day, and even how I feel heading into a day, especially a day where I know I really have to be productive. There's a lot of stuff to do. So, I get more done than I ever used to get done. Way more. People laugh all the time. They're like, how do you, run an orthodontic practice and have 3 kids, and now I'm coaching women on the side, and I read an incredible amount, and. Well, I have to say, time blocking is actually the reason I can do all of those things. So it's also upped my level of joy, happiness, contentment, peace in my life, because I make sure that when I do my time block schedules, I'm making time for the things that matter most to me and the things that I know I need for me to be my best me and to have my best day. And you can do this so many ways. With the kids, when I taught them this concept, we did it for their summers because I find that when they have like all this free time in the day and it's unscheduled, not like a school schedule, that they can either laze around and do nothing or like literally do one thing all day. And that wasn't really satisfying to them or to me. And so with them, what we actually did was we cut out little squares that meant a block of time. So let's say a square this size was a half an hour and a square this size was an hour in all different colors. And then they put them in categories. And then they had a little piece of paper that was their day, and then they could drop all their blocks in that day of all the things they wanted to do and when they were going to do them, and they could follow it. So I mean, you could do some scrapbooking if you're handy like that. You can do this in a calendar or in a journal, but I really like using an app on my phone because it's built specifically for time blocking. So it's built not just as your daily calendar. I don't love those calendars. I mean, they can have times on them where things are listed, but I don't like it because the functionality isn't the same there, and I'm going to explain this a little bit for you. I use an app called Time Finder. There are many if you go into the App Store, but Time Finder is the one that I like. It actually lets you make and store lists of all of the tasks that you maybe do all the time. So in my app, I have things like under home, I have things like exercise and eat, like food, take a shower, do some laundry, any of like my household chores or things that I do under home. And then under impact, which is the name of my practice, I have things like marketing or do clin checks or check DM or all of the different tasks that I would do there. I have things under like fun. For me, that's things like reading, arts and crafts, like crocheting, painting. I've got hanging out with the kids, all that kind of stuff. And so you can make all these different categories, and then you can put the things that you do pretty routinely under those so that you can have specifics. And then you can actually drag and drop those tasks right onto your calendar, which is super cool. You can also, on the app, freehand, so you can type in anything in any block of time. So if there's a one-off or something that is specific to you right now that you don't want to put in one of your preset lists, you can actually just, type it in. You can put anything you want. It also syncs with your calendar, because if you're like me and we have many shared calendars in the family, my calendar can be very full of things that I already have in there. And I need to be aware of that when I'm doing my time blocking so that I don't block, read a book or hang out with the kids over top of an appointment of some kind. So those things sync. The way that I generally do it is I sit down on a Sunday, and actually that is in my calendar that every Sunday I do my planning for the following week. And I sit down with my Time Finder app and I block out my best guess of my week. I say best guess because life happens and things need to be flexible sometimes. So sometimes I go in and I do great detail. So I might know that Monday and Tuesday I'm at the office. So if it's a work day, a big chunk of my day doesn't need to be time blocked because I know what I'm doing at work all day. I'm busy with patients during all that time. But the hour before work, the 3 hours after work, I could definitely put specifics in there of what I want to accomplish in that time, which literally might be just chilling. But if I wanted to, read a book or there was something specific, that I was tackling, I could put that in there. And sometimes I just do it generally. So I'll block out a rough idea about what I think I want to accomplish each day. And then the day before, I'll go through and put the detail in because I usually have a much better idea of what it is I want to do. Here's the key though. For me, the planning out of my week is really fun. It gives me peace to know that I have a plan for the week. That's just the way my brain works. But you have to make sure you actually include everything, like all things. So, it means if you want to, like, if you're going to read for 30 minutes, you put that in. If you're going to exercise for 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour, you need to put that in. If you want to go for a walk or play with the kids or start a painting or lay in a hammock on the deck, I don't know, put those items in there because everything that you could think, things like eating even, I put in there. So things that you want to do have to be in there because the idea is once you have that time block schedule, you're going to follow it. The app has notifications, so my app like bings at me every 30 minutes with what I'm supposed to be doing in that next 30-minute block. Of course, sometimes I have things set to be like I'm doing this for the next 2 hours or for a next hour, but every 30 minutes it bings at me on my phone, which is in my presence at all times, and lets me know what my next 30 minutes are. On the days I don't follow, so sometimes I create the schedule and we're all human and I don't follow it, I get very little done, very little done. On the days that I do it and I stick to it, I actually follow the thing that I time blocked, I get so much more done. That's reinforcing. I feel better. So you have to make sure you've got lists of all things, which means you have to think about the things that are important to you. This is important, and the things you want to accomplish. And when you start doing this at the very beginning, you don't always know exactly how much time things take. And I struggled with this because I was like willy-nilly doing whatever was coming in front of me, I didn't actually know for sure how long it took me to do, let's say 20 clin checks, because I would do them between doing other things. I was always multitasking, doing a million things at once. And so I started with just making my best guess. And then as time goes by, you alter how much time you schedule for things once you learn how much time you actually need to finish that. Learning is a good thing. So making a schedule that's maybe a huge failure, not a bad thing. It just means you've learned something about what you need to do in your schedule. So you're making educated guesses at the beginning, and then you're modifying it as you go to what's going to work best. So why does time blocking work? And for anyone I know who's stuck to it, it works for all of them. It keeps you focused on the things that you have deemed important. So no longer scattered, no longer thinking about all things at all times, because you've already laid down what's important to you and what you need to accomplish. Research shows us that multitasking is not what successful humans do. Successful humans are very good at focusing on and accomplishing or finishing one thing at a time. And that's where productivity goes up as well. You get focused on the item that you have there and you just get it done. Time blocking brings you focus, and focus is what you need. You need focus, you need some commitment to following the schedule. I find that the actual exercise of planning, like planning the day, either for the whole week or just the day before, helps me continually reflect on the things that are most important to me in my life. And I think for all of us, sometimes those things get lost. We get caught up in the busy, and we need to make sure we make time. And by make time, schedule time for the things that are important. So I always figure out first, what are my musts for the day? What are the things that absolutely must be accomplished? There are some work things for like the day-to-day success of my practice that must be accomplished. They always go in there. The musts go in first. Things like exercising on my days off is a must for me, so I put that in there. Time with my kids is a must. I put that in there. So I put my musts in first, then I figure out how many blocks of time I have left in the day, and I figure out how I can be most productive in the rest of those blocks. When I stick to my time block schedule, I get way more done in way less time. And then I actually also feel like super accomplished at the end of those days, which is very good for me and my self-esteem because I feel good about myself and my mood and energy goes up because I got so much done and I realize I did. Whenever you're going to try something new, and I highly recommend you try this, I say you have to commit to it for 21 days. And if you can't, then don't. Because you can't judge the success or failure of something new, something like this, unless you can commit to it for enough time to find out if it actually works for you. So you do it for 21 days in a row. That's only 3 weeks. Think how fast 3 weeks goes by. You do 21 days in a row consistently. You give it a fair shake. You do your best to follow it. Yes, you're not going to be perfect every day, but you try it, because if you love it, that's a win. If you decide you hate it and it's something you can't do, also a win, because you learn something about yourself. So keep in mind, we all have the exact same 24 hours in a day, right? If you are purposeful in how you use your time, you'll find you have more of it. There's no way to make more time, and we actually don't know how much we get. So I always live by the understanding that I need to be wise in how I choose to use my time. And time blocking and using this Time Finder app for me has been an absolute game changer. So I highly recommend you give it a go. Anyway, I'll see you guys next week for another lesson on whatever happens to be at the top of my mind. See you soon. Bye.